is Grace Morgan. I'm 29, and I've built my entire career on making other people's perfect days run on schedule. Product launches, rooftop galas, CEO town halls, you name it, I've managed it. But nothing prepared me for the day my own family decided I didn't fit their picture. "You're not coming to the wedding," Mom texted coldly. "Selena's family doesn't want you there," Dad added a minute later, as if he were forwarding a calendar update instead of cutting his eldest daughter out of her sister's wedding. I stared at the screen, the words burning more than I wanted to admit. For a few seconds my thumb hovered, because this was the kind of moment that changes everything whether you answer or stay silent. Then I typed back, slowly, so I wouldn't soften it. "So you chose status over blood?" I watched the dots appear and disappear on the screen, then vanish completely. No explanation. No apology. Just silence. Fine. They wanted a clean guest list to impress Selena's wealthy in-laws, the Carsons. They wanted me invisible, just the unseen project manager who booked their vineyard, negotiated their vendor discounts, and put thousands of dollars of deposits on my own card. As a gift they never even said thank you for. If I wasn't welcome in the room, my money and my work weren't going to be either. I opened my laptop, logged into the venue portal I'd set up under my own events LLC, and with a few clicks canceled the booking and redirected the non-refundable deposit to a different event date with one of my corporate clients. Then I moved on to every contract that had my name on it: catering, lighting, transportation. When I was done, I texted one more message: "I hope the Carsons appreciate what you sacrificed for their approval. Good luck with the wedding. You're going to need it." What I did after that, no one in my family saw coming. Before I tell you how far they went to fix the disaster I created, and what happened when they finally cornered me, tell me, what time is it for you right now, and where are you watching from? I really want to see how far this little Texas wedding fiasco travels. If you'd met us from the outside a year ago, you'd probably have thought my parents were just a normal middle-class family from Round Rock, Texas. Dad, an insurance broker who loved golf. Mom, a social media-obsessed PTA queen. Two daughters whose lives looked perfect in filtered photos. What you wouldn't have seen was the spreadsheet in my Google Drive titled "Family Favors Unpaid," or the way my name was missing from every speech, every caption, every bragging post. That spreadsheet started as a joke the year I graduated college. I'd just landed my first job as an assistant event coordinator for a software company in Austin. My boss teased me that I could manage chaos in my sleep, and he wasn't wrong. When my parents realized I could negotiate with vendors and build timelines, they started treating me like their personal logistics department. High school graduation party for my little sister? Grace will handle it. College move-in? Grace will drive the U-Haul. Surprise engagement party? Grace will book the rooftop bar, the photographer, and the dessert table, and, somehow, pay the deposits, because we'll pay you back when things aren't so tight. They never did. As my career grew, I became corporate events manager for a cybersecurity company, planning conferences with seven-figure budgets. My sister's life turned into a highlight reel. When Selena won a local Rising Nurse of the Year award, I edited the video montage that played on the ballroom screens. At the gala, Mom posted an Instagram caption that read, "So proud of our brilliant girl and her hard work." The video got hundreds of likes. I got a text later that night: "You didn't add the song I wanted, but it turned out okay." When Selena got engaged to Daniel Carson, a hospital administrator whose parents sat on local nonprofit boards and donated to the symphony, my phone lit up, not with news, but with tags. I found out via a reposted TikTok of the proposal in downtown Austin, fairy lights, and a hired violinist. In the blurry background, though, right next to the hired photographer, was my own tripod. Weeks earlier, Mom had called. Can you lend your equipment? It's just sitting there anyway. I'd mailed her my backup camera, assuming I'd be invited to help, to fuss over angles, to fix stray hairs. Instead, I watched the proposal like everyone else, through a screen, with my own camera gear being handled by a stranger. Still, when Selena called the next day, squealing through the speaker, I swallowed the hurt. "I want you to plan everything," she said. "You're the only one I trust to make it perfect." And God help me, I said yes. It started with a Pinterest board and ended with an entire Notion workspace, budget trackers, vendor lists, mood boards, and a master timeline that could have run a Fortune 500 conference. I leveraged my work connections to get them a dream venue, a hill country vineyard that booked out 18 months in advance. I put the deposit down through my events LLC to get my corporate discount. When I suggested adding Dad as a co-signer on the contract, Mom waved it off. "Why complicate it? You've got this, honey." That should have been my first red flag. The second came at a tasting dinner with the Carsons. We sat at a long farm table under Edison bulbs while the venue served up miniature versions of braised short ribs and truffle mashed potatoes. Mrs. Carson leaned toward my mother and said, in a voice just loud enough for me to hear, "It's so generous that Selena's sister is pitching in. I know event work isn't exactly a long-term career, but it must be fun while it lasts." It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like my entire job was an extended hobby she tolerated for the sake of her son's wedding. Dad chuckled, trying to smooth it over. "Grace is good with details. She's always been helpful. Helpful, not accomplished, not successful, just convenient." The night ended with everyone gushing over Selena's dress and the Carsons' promise to upgrade a few things for the reception. No one asked if I was okay fronting thousands of dollars in deposits on a salary I'd worked my butt off to earn. I told myself I was overthinking it, that families were messy, and that this wedding would finally be the moment they saw me as more than the person who showed up early and left last. Then came the text. "You're not coming to the wedding. Selena's family doesn't want you there." And suddenly, every uncredited video, every unpaid deposit, every dismissive comment snapped into focus like a timeline finally zoomed all the way out. The night that text came in, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at it until the blue of my phone screen blurred and my reflection, tired eyes, messy bun, an old conference t-shirt, stared back. "Selena's family doesn't want you there." As if I were some distant acquaintance, not the person who had built the day from the ground up. A second text pinged 2 minutes later from Dad. "It's complicated. The Carsons are very particular about appearances. We don't want any tension on her big day. You understand?" I typed a dozen replies and deleted each one. Finally, I settled on the line that felt sharp enough to cut through all the years of me swallowing my feelings. "So you chose status over blood?" When no one answered, I opened my laptop. That was the moment the switch flipped. Not from calm to rage, but from daughter to project manager. My brain slipped into the same mode it did when a keynote speaker canceled an hour before going on stage, or a hotel lost half our room block. I pulled up my wedding folder and opened the venue contract. My name sat alone on the first page under Client, followed by my LLC info, my email, my phone number. I skimmed the cancellation clause for the 100th time, but this time I read it like someone who wasn't going to be pushed aside. If canceled within 14 days of the event, client forfeits initial deposit but will not be charged remaining balance. Deposit may be transferred to a future event date at venue's discretion. The wedding was 10 days away. They had expected me to quietly eat the cost of their shiny dream while they posted photos that carefully cropped me out. I wasn't going to fund my own erasure. I called the venue manager directly. "Hey, this is Grace Morgan with Brightline Events," I said, using my professional voice. I need to cancel the Carson Baker wedding on the 18th and move the deposit to a corporate event for one of my clients in October. There was a pause. Oh, wow, the manager said slowly. Is everything okay? The client's circumstances changed, I replied, which was not a lie. The contract is under my name, and I'd rather not leave that money on the table. We walked through the logistics, the October date, the new event name, the updated invoice. By the time I hung up, the deposit for the wedding had been fully reassigned to a cybersecurity summit I was planning for work, a summit that would now have a stunning vineyard backdrop at a steep discount. Next came the caterer. That contract was also under my LLC, a package deal I'd negotiated based on years of sending them business. Their lead chef sounded sympathetic but unsurprised. Honestly, Grace, we got a weird vibe from the mom at the tasting, he admitted. What do you want to do with the deposit? Apply it to the same October date for the corporate group, I answered. Change the menu to the conference package. Lighting, transportation, the string quartet. Each one was an email or a call. Every vendor had my card on file, my signature on the line. By the time I was done, the only things left attached to the wedding were the elements my parents had insisted on handling themselves, mostly surface-level details that photographed well, but didn't actually make an event run. The Carsons had upgraded the bar and ordered a floral arch through one of their charity contacts. Good for them. Let them see what a good bar looks like without hot food or proper sound. Was it petty? Maybe. Was it revenge? Absolutely. But it was also me taking back something that had always been framed as a one-way street. The money, the work, the problem-solving. I'd given it freely. Then they cut me out to impress people who thought my career wasn't respectable enough. I sat back in my chair, the glow of the screen reflecting off my glasses, and drafted one last message in the family group chat. I've removed myself, and my business, from all wedding contracts that were in my name. I hope the Carsons appreciate what you were willing to sacrifice for them. Good luck with the wedding. You're going to need it. I hit send and turned my phone face down on the table. For the first time in years, the silence didn't make me feel small. It made me feel in control. In the days leading up to the wedding, my phone became a ticking bomb sitting on the kitchen counter. I muted the family group chat and stuck to work, pouring myself into a product launch rehearsal and pretending the only schedule that mattered was my conference timeline. But between Zoom calls and slide decks, I kept catching myself glancing at the screen, waiting for the blast I knew was coming. It started with Mom. Grace, I just got an email from the venue asking about a contract transfer. What is going on? She wrote. When I didn't answer, the messages got sharper. The caterer says the deposit is gone. They're demanding full payment up front or they'll cancel. Tell me this is a misunderstanding. Dad chimed in next. You can't just pull out last minute. This is Selena's wedding. We'll pay you back after things settle down. The words that would have worked on me 5 years ago bounced off this time. They'd said after things settled down about my college tuition reimbursement, the emergency loan for Selena's car, and the money I fronted for Mom's surgery deductible. I was still waiting. Selena's message hit different. It came late, 3 nights before the wedding, at 1:13 a.m. I heard you canceled the venue. Tell me that's not true. I know Mom and Dad said things they shouldn't have, but this is my wedding, Grace. Why would you do this to me? I stared at that one the longest, because the honest answer was ugly. I wanted her to feel, for once, what it was like to be left out of the plans. But revenge wasn't the whole truth. I typed slowly. I took back my gift. You were okay with me paying for the dream wedding, but not okay with me being there. That's not a mistake, Selena. That's a choice. The typing dots flashed on and off for nearly a minute before her reply came in. You're being dramatic. You know how Mom is about appearances. The Carsons have certain expectations. We just needed the day to be simple. Simple. As if cutting off your sister to please rich strangers was simple. I turned the phone over again and let it buzz itself stupid. The next morning, a florist I sometimes subcontract with sent me a DM on Instagram. Hey, heard through the grapevine your sister's wedding is melting down. Your mom tried to book us last minute at full price. No contract, no deposit, wanted to sort it out after. We passed. I couldn't help it. I laughed. Not a happy laugh, but the startled kind you let out when something is so on brand for your family it's almost funny. It wasn't that I wanted them humiliated. I just wasn't going to be the parachute this time. The day before the wedding, a courier showed up at my apartment with a long white box and a crisp envelope taped to the lid. Inside was an expensive bouquet of white peonies and eucalyptus, the sort of thing bridesmaids held in styled shoots. The envelope held a handwritten note in my mother's looping script. Gracie, we've all said things in the heat of the moment. This day is bigger than any one person's feelings. Please don't ruin your sister's future over a misunderstanding. If you can fix what you changed with the vendors, we'll talk after the honeymoon about everything. Love, Mom. There was also a second envelope, thinner, with my name in my father's handwriting. It held a personal check for exactly 1/3 of the venue deposit, nowhere near what I had put on my card for the entire wedding portfolio. It was less an apology than a negotiation. Here's a small token. Now restore our image. I stood in my kitchen holding both envelopes, the flowers on the counter between my elbows. For a split second, I saw the version of this story where I caved, where I made some frantic calls, salvaged what I could, and watched from my couch as they posted sunset photos tagged #CarsonWedding, pretending none of this had ever happened. Then I saw the other version, the one where I kept my promise to myself and stopped fixing problems for people who didn't mind erasing me. I walked the bouquet to the trash can, hesitated, then grabbed an old mason jar, filled it with water, and stuck a single stem in. I left it on the table and threw the rest away. You can keep one pretty thing, I muttered to myself. The rest of this mess is on them. The morning of the wedding, I woke up earlier than I needed to. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and checked the event portal for the corporate summit. The October date glowed on the screen with a tiny green confirmed icon. That deposit wasn't coming back to my parents' side of the ledger. It was already invested in a future where my skills and my work were respected. Around 10, my phone buzzed with a screenshot from my best friend, Tina. It was a Facebook post from one of Mom's PTA friends. Pray for my friend's family today. Her daughter's wedding is having major vendor issues. Can't say more, but it's a big mess. Underneath were comments. Didn't they book that fancy vineyard? Hope it's not the Carsons. I heard they're very particular. I stared at the screen, the coffee cooling in my hand. They were spinning, hard. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't on their crisis management team. I could have stayed home and watched the disaster unfold through filtered photos and secondhand gossip. Instead, a calm, almost clinical thought slid into my mind. I wanted to see what happened when I wasn't there to patch the holes. Not to gloat. Okay, maybe a little. But to witness the moment my family realized I wasn't their safety net anymore. I got dressed in dark jeans, a simple blouse, and flats. Not wedding guest formal, but not sloppy either. Neutral. I grabbed my keys and headed for the backup location the PTA gossip had mentioned in the comments. A lakeside restaurant that sometimes rented its banquet room for last-minute events. The vineyard was gone. The dream had already cracked. I just wanted to see how loud it would shatter. The restaurant on the lake looked like every last-minute banquet spot I'd ever seen. White tablecloths fighting with overhead fluorescents, a crooked sign at the entrance, Carson Baker Wedding, private event. A few guests in pastel dresses hovered outside, staring at their phones. Is this the right place? One asked. Pretty sure, I said. There was a venue change. Inside, staff hustled with trays of chicken skewers and Costco dinner rolls. No floral arch, no quartet, no curated lighting, just ficus trees draped in tulle and a DJ sweating over tangled cables. This was what happened when you ripped out the backbone of an event and tried to fake it in a week. At the far end, Mom stood in navy, smile sprayed on like her hair. Dad paced with his phone, face too red. The Carsons hovered near the makeshift arch, radiating disappointment. Guests trickled in, their printed vineyard programs already obsolete. Then Selena appeared from a side door in her gown, bridesmaids flanking her with mismatched bouquets. She looked gorgeous, but every muscle in her face screamed strain. DJ's late, officiant has another ceremony at 3, photographers at the vineyard. A bridesmaid hissed. She says she'll try to make it. Panic flickered in Selena's eyes. Mom's gaze swept the room and froze on me. Relief flashed for half a second before it curdled into fury. She strode over, heels sharp against the tile. "You should not be here," she hissed. "After what you did? This is not the time." "Relax," I said. "I'm in the back. Consider me a ghost." "We had to scramble to find this place," she snapped. "Do you know how humiliating this is? The Carsons are furious. This reflects on their family." "On their family," I said. "You disinvited your own daughter to impress them. This reflects on you." Dad joined us, tie crooked. "What exactly did you change?" he demanded. "The vineyard is gone," the caterer demanded full payment. "The band says there was no contract. What did you do?" "I moved my contracts to an event where I'm allowed in the room," I replied. "I stopped funding people who pretend I don't exist." His mouth tightened. "Do you have any idea what this is costing us?" "I've had that spreadsheet for months," I said. "You were fine with the cost when it made you look generous. You just didn't want me in the picture." Before he could answer, the mic squealed at the front. The backup officiant announced they were starting. Guests shuffled into seats. Mom shot me a final glare. "Do not make a scene. This is about your sister." I watched the ceremony from the back. No vineyard, no oak tree, just a generic room where vows about loyalty bounced off walls that still smelled like last night's fish special. Halfway through, a server dropped a tray. A toddler cried. The sound system glitched during For Better or Worse. It was like the room itself refused to cooperate with the fantasy. Finally, "You May Kiss the Bride." The DJ played the wrong recessional song. Selena, on Daniel's arm, started down the aisle, smiling on autopilot. Guests clapped, chairs scraped, cameras flashed. Then her eyes hit the back wall. "Hit me." She stopped dead. The music stumbled. Conversations died mid-sentence. For the first time all day, my sister's performance cracked. "Grace," she said, the microphone still on. Every head turned. "What are you doing here?" Selena demanded, voice echoing through the room. "You weren't invited." I stayed leaning against the wall, heart pounding, voice steady. "I noticed. I also noticed my name on every contract that made your original wedding possible. I came to see how it turned out without me." A ripple moved through the guests. Mrs. Carson's gaze darted between me and my parents, eyes narrowing. "Is this why we're in a restaurant?" she asked. "Because the vineyard was mishandled?" Mom blanched. "We had some unexpected issues," she began. "This isn't the time." "It's exactly the time," I cut in. "You're here instead of at Blue Ribbon Vineyards for one reason. You decided I was good enough to pay for the fantasy, but not good enough to stand in the background of your photos." Dad stiffened. "We asked you to stay away because we didn't want drama. And what did you do? You made everything about you." I laughed once. "Dad, everything has been about Selena since we were kids. I made her banners, edited her essays, filmed every milestone, then sat in the second row while you bragged. When I got promoted, you didn't even mention it. When she got engaged, I built the dream you wanted, and you cut me to impress people who think my career is a hobby. I turned to Selena. You asked me to plan this because you trusted only me. Then you let Mom text me like I was a risk factor. Tears pooled in her eyes. You know that's not what I meant, she said. The Carsons have standards. Mom was worried you'd say something or show up in your work clothes. The words sounded worse out loud. You mean the clothes I wear while running events people like you brag about? I asked. I pulled up the venue contract on my phone and held it out to the Carsons. Client, Brightline Events, LLC. That's me. I booked the vineyard, negotiated the rate, and paid the deposit. When I was disinvited, I canceled under the clause and moved my deposit to a corporate summit. Legally. Cleanly. The room went still. Mr. Carson scanned the screen, jaw tightening. So we're standing in a backup restaurant, he said slowly, because your parents allowed us to believe they secured a venue they did not control, and then pushed out the person who did? Mom sputtered. We were going to fix it. We just needed time. We thought Grace would understand, and she overreacted. I took back money and labor you never respected, I said. That's not an overreaction. That's a boundary. A guy from Daniel's side muttered, So you fired your event planner and then got shocked when the event tanked. A few nervous laughs slipped out. Selena's shoulders sagged. I didn't know the contracts were in your name, she whispered. I thought Mom and Dad handled it. They were terrified of losing the Carsons' respect. They said we couldn't risk a scene. I thought you'd just show up later or we'd fix it after. You thought I'd stay useful, I said, even while you erased me. She sobbed. So this is punishment. You ruined my wedding. You still got married, I said quietly. You have your husband. I didn't destroy your relationship. I destroyed the illusion that you can treat people like staff and expect loyalty forever. I was always your sister, but you only treated me like a resource. Today you found out what happens when the resource logs out. Daniel stepped forward, surprising us both. She's right, he said. I told you I was uncomfortable with how this was handled. Disinviting your own sister? I should have pushed harder. Mom, Dad. Don't act blindsided. You've dismissed Grace's job from day one. If this is what it took to expose that, maybe we earned this mess. My parents looked like someone had yanked the floor out from under them. We just wanted better for you girls, Dad muttered. We thought if Selena married into that circle, it would open doors. For her, I said. Doors I built and held while you kept my name off the plaque. I took a breath. I'm not here to beg for a public apology. I don't care what these guests think of me. I'm here to say this, out loud, one time. I'm done being the person you only see when you need something. I won't be your invisible safety net anymore. My voice didn't shake. Selena's makeup streaked down her face, the bridal image fully shattered. So what now? She whispered. You just walk away? I thought of the October summit at the vineyard, my name on every run of show. What happens now is up to you, I said. You can keep telling yourself I'm dramatic, or you can face the fact that you threw me out to impress strangers. Either way, I'm not sliding back into the old role. I stepped closer just long enough to say, I hope your marriage is stronger than your fear of looking imperfect. Relationships don't survive on curated images. They survive on respect. I haven't seen much of that from you when you didn't need something. Then I turned and walked toward the side door. No slammed chairs, no shouting. Just a steady exit while the room buzzed behind me, finally forced to see the person who'd always been standing just out of frame. Outside, the noise of the reception dulled to a muffled thump behind the restaurant walls. The lake shimmered in the afternoon light. A couple of kids tossed pebbles at the water, oblivious. I gripped the railing, letting the adrenaline drain out of my hands. My whole body shook. but it felt more like release than fear. The door creaked. "You really detonated that timeline," Tina said, joining me at the railing. "You okay?" "Weirdly." "Yeah," I said. "It's like I finally said the part I've been editing out of my own story." "They're in there spinning like it's a PR crisis," she said. "Carson's versus Morgan's. Honestly, I'm glad someone finally said it to their faces." I shrugged. "They'll survive. Embarrassment doesn't kill you. It just strips off the filters." For years, "Don't embarrass us" had been their favorite leash. Today I dropped the leash on the floor. A few minutes later, the door opened again. I braced. It was Selena. Veil gone, hair mussed, mascara streaked. For the first time all day, she looked like a person instead of a picture. Tina squeezed my arm and slipped inside. "If you came out here to punch me, I don't have energy to duck," Selena rasped. "Punching you would be easier," I said. "Talking is harder." She came to the railing, leaving space between us. "You really hurt them in there," she said. "Mom and Dad." "They really hurt me long before today," I answered. She nodded once. "I know," she whispered. "I just didn't want to look at it. It was easier to believe you liked being the one who handled everything. If I admitted it was unfair, I'd have to admit I used you too." "I didn't mind helping," I said. "I minded being expected and erased." She swallowed. "When Mom sent that text, I knew it was wrong. I knew. But she was crying about losing respect, and Dad said we couldn't risk upsetting the Carsons. I told myself you were strong and we'd fix it later. I made later do all the work." "Sometimes later doesn't come," I said. "That's why I drew a line." She looked at the water. "So, are you done with us? Forever?" "I don't have a forever plan," I said. "I know I need real space to build a life where I'm not constantly proving I deserve a chair at the table I set. If we ever rebuild anything, it'll be with boundaries that stay in place when it's inconvenient." Her voice dropped. "Do you hate me?" It was the most honest thing she'd asked all day. I thought of our childhood, the late nights on piano benches and practice fields, all the ways we'd been cast in roles we didn't write. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. I hate the script we were given. You got to be the star. I got to be the stagehand. Mom and Dad liked it that way, and we both played along." She blinked hard. "Then what does love look like to you now?" "It looks like people who apologize without turning themselves into the victim," I said. "Parents who care more about their kids' mental health than their social status. A sister who doesn't wait until her wedding day to decide if I'm good for optics." She let out a wet little laugh. "Daniel told my parents he's not going on the honeymoon until they agree to therapy," she said. "He actually said the word boundaries to Mom." I thought she'd pass out. I felt my mouth curve. That was the real price landing, not just a ruined aesthetic, but consequences they couldn't charm their way around. "Good," I said. "Maybe having to tell the truth to a stranger in a quiet office will do more than 100 pretty photos ever could." She took a breath. If we go too, me and you, to therapy, would you ever consider being in the same room as me again? Not now. Not next week. Just someday." I pictured the October summit at the Vineyard. My name on the signage, staff asking me where to place the stage, not my parents. Maybe one day I'd invite her to see that world on my terms. "Someday is more honest than never," I said. "So, maybe, if the work is real and not just for show." She nodded like someone accepting terms. "Okay." We didn't hug. We just stood there, two women in expensive clothes staring at a lake while a messy reception limped on behind us. A few weeks later, I was back on that vineyard hilltop, headset on, watching a cybersecurity keynote wrap under the lights I'd once imagined for Selena's first dance. The venue manager smiled. "I'm so glad this date went to you," she said. The last couple that tried to scramble something together? It was rough. They didn't have a grace. Yeah, I said. I heard. That night at home, my phone buzzed. A photo from Selena. Her and Daniel on a couch beside a woman in a sensible blazer. The caption, Session 1. No excuses. Thought you should know we're trying. I stared at it, then typed back, I'm glad. Keep going. No emojis. No promise to visit. Just acknowledgement. After I hit send, I opened my notes app and wrote, You're allowed to walk away from people who only call when they need something, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. I don't know what you would have done. Would you have canceled the venue or swallowed the insult and shown up anyway? At what point does keeping the peace just mean burying yourself so everyone else can look perfect? That's the line I'm learning to guard. But I know this much. My life is no longer organized around making other people look good while I vanish in the background. And for me, that's worth more than any flawless wedding. But I'm curious. Where would you have drawn the line in my place? From my point of view, this script isn't just about payback for the drama. It's about the exact moment a daughter finally steps out of the role of unpaid firefighter in her own family. Grace canceling the venue and pulling her money and labor back isn't about destroying a wedding. It's her saying clearly, family shouldn't be built on disrespect and exploitation. In real life, a lot of people are taught to tolerate everything for the sake of peace, but the price is their self-worth and mental health. The key plot beats in this story highlight that healthy boundaries, mutual respect, and the courage to say no to unfair treatment are not cruel. They're necessary. That, in itself, is a form of love too. Love for yourself, and a lesson many families seriously need to relearn.